these people pushing for the erasure of women do it in the guise of feminism. It's very bizarre. They don't actually respect and care for women's privacy or safety or fairness or dignity or equal opportunities or any of those things. They're sending us a message, and that message is that we don't matter and that we should smile and step aside and allow these men onto our podiums, allow these men into our locker rooms. And that's a message that no girl or woman should ever have to hear.
Riley, thank you so much for joining me. I want to make this very succinct and simple. I know you're a busy person. You got a lot going on. And congratulations on your engagement, correct? That you just got engaged?
I'm actually married.
You're married?
I'm married. We just celebrated our 1-year anniversary.
Oh, that's what it was then. You get your 1-year anniversary. So
yes.
You have been married, which is absolutely beautiful. We're going to get to that here in a second. So I just want to know a little bit more about you. You know, everybody knows you from being this excellent swimmer that is courageous and calling out the BS of men and women's sports. Everybody, I think a lot of people know you for that, but I want to know just a little more about you. So where did you grow up?
I grew up here in Nashville, Tennessee. Born and raised. I will say the past 4-ish years, it has changed drastically, like a lot of big cities has, but this is home. I love it here, and I never see myself leaving.
So how did you end up going from there to Kentucky?
So I'm biased. I think the SEC is the best conference. My dad, he played SEC football. My mom, she played softball. All my uncles played SEC ball. And so I knew I wanted to stay in the SEC. But my dad playing football at Vanderbilt, we weren't allowed to like that orange school in the state of Tennessee. I won't even say it. But I always thought I was going to be a Florida Gator. I swore up and down I was going to be a Florida Gator. I took my trip there, and it just didn't spark like I thought it was going to. And so ultimately I decided, take my little trips around the SEC, and went to the University of Kentucky, and on a whim, I didn't even want to go to this place. They weren't good at swimming. It was at the bottom of my list. My boyfriend at the time, he really liked Kentucky, and that's why I went. And the guy I'm married to now, it's not that same guy. But I went there.
God had a plan for you. God had a plan.
He always does. He always does. And so I went there. I fell in love. I fell in love with the university, the athletic resources, but really the academic resources, the community service aspects of it, just all of it, the team, the coaches. And I committed. And it really was, God had a plan, and he knows best. And it was best for me.
Awesome. So you grew up in and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I saw you mention, or I heard you just mention about your mom and dad. Did you grow up in a 2-parent home?
I did. Yes. I am so blessed to have such a firm family foundation. I have 3 siblings. My parents are phenomenal. I am very close with all my grandparents. I knew all my great-grandparents, wow. All right here in Tennessee. And so I am beyond blessed to have that.
Did your other siblings play sports, or are you the superstar?
We all did. We all did. My youngest brother, he's in college playing football now. My oldest sister, she played. My youngest sister, she's probably the best athlete of us all, and she's a gymnast. I will never tell her that to her face, but she's probably the best of us all. She's a Tennessee state champion in gymnastics, and so we are very genetically blessed, I'll say.
That is awesome. I always want to know about your upbringing and just a little bit about that, and the siblings, and also coming from a 2-parent household. How do you think that affected you or had an impact on your life, being able to have siblings too? Because some kids, they have 2-parent homes, but then they're the only child. But how did the sibling rivalry and having a family structure, how did that impact you? Are your parents Christian, and did that impact you at all?
Absolutely, yes. My parents, we grew up going to Old Hickory Church of Christ, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. And when you're 10 years old and you're the youngest one in the room by 60 years, it's not that fun. But really, it is such a blessing that, again, while I had that firm family foundation, I had that firm spiritual foundation. I will say my eyes have been open this past year to, I thought I was spiritual, but I've been spiritually awakened this past year. In regards to coming from this structure of a family, I've been doing a lot of reading and a lot of researching this past year. Really why, in regards to what we're talking about, in regards to this gender ideology propaganda being pushed and this movement of transitioning, why is it happening? And so I've been doing a lot of research around the family, surrounding the family, to get to kind of the root of this problem. And I am certain when I say that coming from a two-parent home is influential to the rest of your life. It sets you up for success when you see that kind of relationship between your parents and you see that dynamic and you have that support, that influx of support from two people who love and care for you, and what that looks like. And so, again, I think that's a big contributor to my success, but not only my success, my leadership and doing what I'm doing and the security to take the arrows that I've been taking. I think that's to a credit to my family and how I was raised. But I also think it's to a credit of just playing sports in general. Those lifelong characteristics you develop from being at the pool every day at 4:30 in the morning, swimming 10 miles a day, literally in college. That's given me really the confidence, again, the leadership, the resiliency to do what I'm doing.
That is absolutely amazing. I identify with that because I grew up an athlete. You know, my parents weren't together, but they were both actively in my life. But I was a college or a high school football player. I was an All-American. I was a top player in the nation, one of the top players in the nation coming out of high school. I played college football, so I know exactly what you were talking about, that development of camaraderie, teamwork. I mean, just working hard, overcoming adversity. I'm sure that you have been injured at some point, or maybe hurt, at least if you haven't been injured, and you have to learn how to overcome those things. And, you know, one thing that I learned being an athlete is that it really prepares you for almost every aspect of your life. Marriage, like you said, coming on the platforms and being bold, and all of those things are preparation points of being an athlete starting out. So what are your goals? You know, I know that I try not to do too much research into the things that you do because I want to have this fresh conversation with you about your goals. Like, what are your goals moving forward? I know that you was a swimmer, or you were a swimmer. What are your goals in swimming, or have you retired from that and you're moving on to something different?
I'm officially done swimming. I proudly finished my career as a 12-time NCAA All-American, a 5-time SEC champion. I'm actually the SEC record holder in the 200 butterfly, Olympic trials, SEC Scholar Athlete of the Year, SEC Community Service Leader of the Year. And so I was just in such a place of complacency when I finished my 4 years. We had an option of an extra year because of COVID if we wanted to take that extra year of eligibility. But it's not that I didn't love swimming. Of course, it's a love-hate relationship, but I just felt at such a place where I was satisfied with what I had done. I'm really proud of how I finished my career. So I'm done swimming. I've transitioned to triathlons and marathons and running and different things because I still love competing. Oh my gosh, there's nothing better than that competitive drive and setting goals and achieving those goals. Oh my gosh, it gives you a high like nothing else even possibly could. I love winning, to put it quite frank. I hate losing more than I love winning, but there's nothing better than that. So I've transitioned to a different kind of competition.
So out of the triathlete or tri events, maybe I'll say tri events. Now I know that you were a swimmer, but is swimming still your favorite out of all of the events, or do we not know of a passion that you've always had that you haven't, you know, been able to perform in because you took on swimming when you were, you know, going into college?
Well, I'll tell you, it's not cycling. The swimming and the running, I'm good, golden. Cycling, I feel like I'm dying. So not the cycling, but the other two, I can handle. So that's what that looks like. Again, I do like the swimming because, again, I like winning, and I'm typically the first one out of the water, which is the fun feeling. And then we get on the bike, and that's where it all goes downhill.
That's awesome. You know, I didn't gain a crazy amount of weight. I'm probably 50 pounds over where I want to be at. And I used to cycle all the time. I used to ride about 200 miles a week.
Wow.
In Tucson, they have this mountain called Mount Lemmon, and me and the guys used to go up Mount Lemmon often. Not always to the top, because that's a grueling 5% climb for 25 miles. So the average person, it takes a couple hours to get up there. So I love cycling, and I think that I could never be a triathlete because of swimming and running. Like those two, you can't. I don't even know how you guys do it. I'll give you an example. So on the football team, we do these little activities, competitive activities in our fall camp. And one thing was we did a swimming relay. So this is all we did was swim down once and tag a guy to swim down once. And like we were dead after just going down one time. I mean, it's like I ran a 400-meter dash because we were doing it all wrong, kicking and doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
And that was, I don't know how people swim over a mile. Like I would literally drown and die. So triathletes doing a triathlon is something that I would never probably do. But kudos to you. But that's exciting. I mean, when do you start? Are you training now, or do you have an upcoming triathlon that you're going to be involved in? Are you going to try to sprint first before you do the full, or are you ready to jump right in?
No, I've done the sprint. I've done the Olympic distance. I would love to do an Ironman, which is, of course, pretty miserable. I don't think I would love to do it. Love is a strong word. It's a bucket list item to do an Ironman. A big goal of mine. So we'll see what that looks like. It definitely won't be this year, but hopefully soon. I think that would be a pretty cool achievement.
Yeah, that's great. That's good to hear, because I was wondering, I was like, is she still going? Is she going to, swim in the Olympics? Now, what are you doing outside of the athletic realm? I mean, obviously you're married. Obviously, I'm sure you guys are going to have children one day, or at least, adopt or something of that nature. But outside of those things, what's your next career endeavor? Are you going to write books? Are you going to become a more prominent voice? Are you going to run for office? Like what is something that you have as a measurable accomplishment looking forward from this experience that you've had with Leah Thomas and the whole swimming thing?
Absolutely. First of all, I graduated with my degree from University of Kentucky. My degree was human health sciences and health law. And so I had every intent on pursuing dental school when I graduated. What I always wanted to do was actually endodontics, which is root canals. But clearly, I'm now working on teeth. And so I put that off last year. I accepted my seat this year, put down the deposit, ready to go in the fall. But I've been praying and praying, is this the right time for that? God, where do I need to be? And so I recently just called the dental school. It's University of Tennessee, which I know I said we don't talk about that orange school. But I had scholarships, so I made it work. I'm still never saying go big orange. But I called that dental school and I told them of my dilemma. And I said, I'm at a crossroads. I don't know what to do. And they gave me the God wink that I needed. And they said, Riley, we know what you do and we love what you do. We will hold your spot at this dental school for whenever you want to come. If you want to put it off a year, you're welcome next year. If you want to put it off another year from that, you're welcome that year. That's how much we love and are inspired by what you're doing and what you're fighting for. And you don't hear of universities doing that. You don't hear of institutions taking that approach in regards to something as controversial, which is crazy to even say. Yeah. And doing what I'm doing, there's no other university that's said that. But I had so much support from my undergrad at University of Kentucky, and now the dental school that I've applied to and accepted my seat in, they are supportive of me and my fight, which just shows me I'm in the right place. And that kind of gave me the reassurance that I needed to put school off another year and keep pursuing this. And when I say this, my mission since the beginning of this is to enact change so no girl, no woman has to face blatant discrimination on the basis of sex, whether that's in competition, whether that's in a locker room, whether that's in a prison, whether that's in a sorority, whatever that looks like. I realize this is a lot bigger than women's sports, and I'm seeing all these women affected by this erasure of women and what it is to be a woman, and this how men can now claim the identity of womanhood. It's wild. And so what I've been doing to enact these changes, I've been traveling state to state, testifying in front of state legislature, doing everything I can on that behalf. I think legislation is a quick way, I shouldn't say quick, legislation is a way to get this issue curbed. And thus far, there have been 22 states that have passed some sort of fairness in women's sports bill. I've been working on the same thing at the federal level. We have an administration in the White House right now who can't define the word woman. They're actively working to rewrite Title IX. Title IX is, of course, the federal civil rights law that was supposed to prevent discrimination on the basis of sex, but the Biden administration is rewriting it to where it's now preventing discrimination on the basis of gender identity. So what this means is any man could join a sorority, any man could live in a dorm room with a woman, any man would have full access to any bathroom, locker room, changing space on campus. Any man could take academic and athletic scholarships away from women. Under this new rewrite, it says if you complain about being housed in a dorm room with a man, then you're guilty of sexual harassment. Or if you misgender a trans-identifying individual, then you are guilty of sexual harassment, not the man who's parading around your locker room exposing male genitalia. That's not sexual harassment. But if you call a spade, then you're guilty and you will be charged. That's what our administration is doing, which is why I think it's so important to curb this at the federal level. On top of all of the women's sports stuff I've been doing, I've been working really heavily, again, at both the state and federal level to pass the Women's Bill of Rights. What this is a bill that defines the word woman. Sounds crazy. I can't believe we would ever need a law that does that. But this year, we worked to pass it in Kansas, which is the first state, Tennessee, my home state, being the second state. Oklahoma is in the works now. So great strides, really. I couldn't be more honored to be in the position I'm in and really just seeing what's at stake here and fighting for that and using my voice and using the truth to highlight the hypocrisy, the double standard, the irony of really what's happening, because these people pushing for the erasure of women do it in the guise of feminism. It's very bizarre. And I think it needs to be highlighted in such a way that the general public sees that they don't actually respect and care for women's privacy or safety or fairness or dignity or equal opportunities or any of those things. They really don't. They're sending us a message, and that message is that we don't matter and that we should smile and step aside and allow these men onto our podiums, allow these men into our locker rooms. And that's a message that no girl or woman should ever have to hear.
Yeah, and I love that. And that's why I wanted to interview you and talk to you. I just have a conversation because I am so proud of you. You are a rock star to me, because there's so many people who cower when they have opportunities to stand up and make a difference. And I don't know of any young woman that's willing to take the shots and that's willing to step up and say something. I mean, you have been leading, and not only, and I'm not trying to say this to brag on you, make your head go like this, all right? But you know, you are not only doing an incredible job stepping up, you are very competent in what you're doing. You are making strides in the right direction. I feel like God has called you because you've been preparing to be this voice for a very long time, whether you knew it or not. And I'm just incredibly proud of you. I just can't say it enough. It's like, like you're my little sister or something. And I'm so proud of my sister for coming out and saying, you know what, I'm not going to let this just go. I'm not going to let y'all bully us. And other young women, I hope, will glean some of the courage that you have to say, you know what, we're all in this together. We all need to say something. It's not enough to just hope it gloss over, or not enough to be afraid of getting canceled. We have to. I mean, in history, we look at some of the pioneers of change in our country and all over the world. It starts from somebody that's saying, you know what, I'm not letting this go. No. and God using people who have that experience of I'm winning no matter what I do, and I can see it in your eyes, like you're endeavoring in this thing and you're going to win, just like you've done in sports, just like you've done in almost every aspect of your life, you're going to win. And so I'm very proud of you for taking that stand, and I support you 100%. I'll run through a wall with you to make sure that you get things accomplished that you want to get accomplished. And I want you to have an opportunity. That's why I want to do the interview, to share with all of the people that follow me that may not know your story, may not have heard, but how can they support you? And I wanted to give you a moment to kind of throw that out there. How can we support you, Riley? How can we, is it monetary? Is it just sharing videos? Is it, sharing legislation that you were trying to get passed? Let us know how we can help.
Absolutely. First and foremost, I think it's really important to, and I really hate saying this because it makes me sound like an activist, but I think it's important to stay educated on the topic really in general, because the narrative that, not to make it political, but the narrative that the left loves to push is that it's a non-issue. It's not really happening. It's just women's middle school sports. Who really cares? It's not a big deal. Why are we creating a solution to a problem that doesn't exist? And that could not be further from the truth. It's happening in all sports, all levels, all ages, all divisions, across the country in every state, truly. I always try and post breaking stories on my Twitter. My Twitter is Riley_Gaines_. So I try to highlight how politicians respond, whether it's good, bad, whatever that looks like. I could list, seriously, hundreds of examples off the top of my head right now. And it's not just happening in the States, it's happening all over. But really, secondly, my message to parents: defend your daughters. First and foremost, those girls, they need a voice. They don't yet understand how to work theirs a lot of the time, and they need their parents. We need parents who will go to those school board meetings, who will step on toes and ruffle feathers, even when, especially us as Christians, we want to be peacemakers. We want to, be compassionate, have empathy, and of course we do, right? But I think we can do that by still holding people accountable when something's unjust. Second message for parents is to teach your sons masculinity. I think this conversation very quickly gets centered around women and girls. And while, yes, of course, I agree, women and girls need to speak up, we need men too. Men, you are not clear of this fight. We need men to protect and provide, as the biblical role says for men to do. We've gotten to this point in society and in our culture where masculinity is deemed toxic and it's deemed bad. That is not true. We need masculine men. There's a saying, and it's hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times. And it's a cycle, and you can see it throughout history and how it's played out. It's pretty interesting. And I think we're in this part where weak men have created hard times. And so we can only hope that this hard times that we're living in, it garners strong men. But we need to teach masculinity for that to happen. Third, know your state senator, know who it is, know your local representative, and know where your state stands. Get in contact with your state senator or state legislator. If your state is not a state that is one of the 22 protecting women and girls in sports, and let them know how you feel, regardless of where you fall on that political spectrum. This isn't about, as I mentioned, it shouldn't be about politics in the way that it has. Of course, it was inevitable, and of course, it's legislation that we need to curb this, and so it's gone that way. But I've interacted with so many amazing liberal women, liberal men, lifelong liberals who think this is crazy. The original feminist, a woman said to me the other day, again, lifelong liberal, and she said to me, and it really struck me, she said, how can we defend what we can't even define? And I thought that was so powerful, because it's true. We are having a hard time defining woman. I'm sure you've seen the What is a Woman documentary, and you saw how it blew up on Twitter over this past weekend as well. If we can't define this word, how are we saying we can defend it if we can't define it? So regardless of how you vote, whatever color you vote, and you think this is wrong and unjust, let your representatives know that.
All right, perfect. I love that. So Riley, thank you so much. We'll put your links in the description section. So thank you so much for sharing your time. I know how valuable time is. I'm busy as I don't know what, and I'm sure you're just as busy. So thank you so much for giving us your time. I'm going to ask you a couple questions, but I'm gonna do it after this video. I'll ask you a couple questions, some fun questions that's lighthearted. Have you. So thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
No, thank you.